축하합니다. 축하합니다. 쌍근의 1주년 축하합니다.
Hello everybody, my name's Jeep, and today I'm going to tell you all about Ssaangn, the Korean Wordle-like game that I've been working on for over a year now. Now this is a sequel video. I did a video last year kind of explaining everything that the game is about and all the crazy stuff that's happened since I started working on it. So here's another video all about how my life got turned upside down. This one is not going to be as crazy as the last one, honestly, but mostly it's just a follow-up of all the stuff that's happened since the previous one. So I recommend that if you haven't seen it, watch the previous video. I'm not going to cover a lot of the stuff that I talked about there. But yeah, let's just get straight into it. So I've actually shipped over 100 updates for this game. A lot of those were small updates, but some of them were pretty substantial. And this is a scrollable timeline that I made at the end of last year, showing the full development history and all the major events. A bunch of these were covered in the previous video, but let's just move on. So in March, here's how I celebrated the game's 1-year anniversary.
3월 5일에 상근 기념이었어요. 그 작년에
3월
네.
1주년이었어요 혹시?
네네. 상근은 1년이 됐어요.
저 혹시 노래 불러드려도 될까요? 축하합니다. 축하합니다. 쌍근의 1주년 축하합니다.
And I'll explain who this is later on. But for now, just a quick overview. If you haven't seen the game before, it looks like this screenshot on the left. Every puzzle is a 2-syllable word, and as you guess, it displays fruit and vegetable clues. And using those clues, you can basically suss out what the word of the day is. Each time the player wins, they unlock a new part of this fairy tale backstory, and that story is now up to 90 parts spread across 6 chapters. Now the last main update that I talked about is how I added coins to the game as a form of weekly progress. And the inspiration came from players who weren't able to participate in the streak system because they couldn't play every day, but still wanted some form of progression. So I built this system where at the end of each week you get a report card, and then based on how well you did that week, you can earn either a copper, a silver, or a gold coin. And this was based on a traditional fable I was reading at the time, as well as these coins that I saw in a mining museum when I was traveling through Korea because of the events that happened in the previous video. Again, just go watch that one. So the next big update after that was also inspired by a combination of player desires and Korean culture. So players really enjoy it when I share some statistics like this graph here, but it's too much work to keep making these graphs by hand. So I added a feature that lets you see how well the entire community does at the word of the day each day. Around that time, I was learning how to make this traditional Korean watermelon punch in the upper right, and that got me thinking about how watermelon wedges would be a fun visual treatment for a pie chart. The number of seeds in each wedge corresponds with the number of guesses, 1 to 3 guesses, 4 guesses, 5 guesses, 6, 7, and then just failing. And the white seeds mark your personal score for that day so you can compare against the rest of the community. During this update, I also changed it so that players now had to spend one of their weekly coins to unlock each story chapter. And this was their first way to spend coins. I added Chapter 5 to fill in some story gaps with the stripeless tiger and magpie characters that appeared as background characters in other chapters. It also ties in with the pumpkin, kiwi, and watermelon features in the game, giving them a backstory and reason for existing. Now this image on the left is just showing how I clean up images that are generated by DALL-E. I always have to manually remove the stripes from the tiger, and another character in the story is these 33 firefly brothers, so I always have to paint out a bunch of fireflies until I get down to just 33 in one picture. And on the right, this is an example of dozens of failed attempts when I tried to generate a magpie holding a watermelon seed in its beak, I ended up having to do this through compositing. It just wasn't something that could be generated. And another example is the Korean letters on these pumpkins. Those are also something that I have to paint in individually. And then something really cool happened last December. A big Korean gaming community called Minimap nominated Ssaangn for Game of the Year, and I got invited to co-host the stream where they announced the winners. Now, of course, I didn't win. I didn't even get close. But their plan was to show trailers for each nominee, and Ssaangn didn't have a trailer yet. I only had a couple days to make it happen, so I went to the grocery store, bought some fruit, and tossed some ideas together. Now, before I show you the trailer, I have to show you this juice commercial. This is a super well-known commercial in Korea.
아, 과일로 만들었군요. 파인애플. 오렌지 따봉. 하니 레몬 따봉. 맛은.
And now this is the trailer that I made based on that.
모두가 좋아하는 쌍근입니다. 사과 바나나 힌지
과일로 만들었군요.
가지도 마늘도 버섯도 당근 쌍근이죠. 모르면 호박 눌러봐.
상상되는 바로 쌍근입니다.
오늘도 쌍근이죠.
The next big update I did was in February. Previously, everyone's save game was stored locally in their browser, which meant that players lost all their progress when they wiped their browser history or got a new phone. So I moved all the persistent data to a server system. I didn't want the friction of having players create a new account, so every player is given this passport with a random code. They can input that code anywhere to sync progress between various devices and browsers. The big 4-character code in the upper right is what it looks like, and this format has over 144 billion combinations. So it's nearly impossible to guess a valid code while still being very easy to memorize your own personal code. I also converted the existing extra game modes into these passport stamps that you can unlock with coins. Yet another way that players can spend the coins that they earn. So remember the singing from the start of this video? One day I stumbled across this really funny streamer who was playing the game regularly. And so I started watching that stream regularly and just quietly gathering feedback about how well she understood each update that I added. But one day there was some computer trouble and she lost her passport access code. So I emailed her and helped her recover it.
미르틴 진짜.
After that, we chatted on occasion, and one day she suggested that we do a split fiction stream together. And that's where the celebration song video came from. Now here at the bottom is a graph of the first year of daily player counts. There's been a few sudden spikes here and there, but I want to point out the last one. This wasn't from updates, or the trailer, or the nomination, or the streams. It was because some random dude, not a reporter, just a random guy, wrote this nice long article about why word games are very uncommon in Korean compared to English, and talked a bunch about the game that I'm making. I haven't spent any time on user acquisition, so a spike like this makes me think there's a big market out there if I ever get around to advertising this game. I did run a few limited time events last year, but since the game was fully client-side, these events were a bit limited by what was possible without attracting cheaters to take the prizes. So I spent the last couple of months converting big pieces of game logic from client JavaScript to server PHP. The syntax and libraries are just different enough to have made it quite the undertaking. Last year I did a funny April Fool's event and it went over really well, so I wanted to do another April Fool's event this year. So the title of the game, Ssaangn, is roughly translating to twin carrot, and since you always have to guess a 2-syllable word, when you get 2 carrots, that's when you win the game. So for April Fool's Day, I wanted to do a big carrot mode, where you are guessing only a 1-syllable word. And so, to do that, it meant I needed to put together an entirely new dictionary that contained just single-syllable words. I wanted to make this big carrot mode replayable in the future so that all this work wasn't wasted on a single day event, but unfortunately, after I'd done most of the work, I played this mode and realized it just actually wasn't very fun. Maybe it was fun for a one-time novelty thing, but not as an ongoing game mode. So I had to come up with another plan. At the top where it says Ssaangn, after you put in your first guess, that title changes to Kungun, which means big carrot. And then when you put in the second guess, the icon at the top is going to change from 2 carrots to the big carrot. And then after you've put in your third guess, you're locked into guessing single syllable words. And I had to code a really basic physics system to make this part work. So from that point on, you're guessing single syllable words. This is basically like I described before, but there's a little surprise at the end. So it turns into this crane game out of nowhere, and everyone who played the crane game on that day ends up earning a big carrot for a new inventory system that I also added in this update. So you can take items in your inventory and use them to customize the photo in your passport. In your passport, there's a system where you can customize your face by typing on the keyboard, but now, with the items that you earn in the crane game, it lets you change the avatar of your photo. And the new crane game is sticking around as another activity that players can do once a day after they've solved the puzzle of the day. You put in 1 coin, and you get a new item for your inventory, and it never gives you duplicates. When you grab a text box like this, you can wear it as a badge in your passport photo. And since the text boxes are based on the words that you guessed that day, every player is going to have a completely different set of items that they've collected. Speaking of which, let's talk about memes for a second. 80 hours after the crane game was added, somebody posted this custom avatar. As you might guess, this is a word for male genitalia, but it took some random luck to get there. Okay, here's another funny thing that I came across. This is a random social media post, and it says, I was playing with my children after dinner, then took a break to look at my phone. My son started watching YouTube on the TV, and suddenly I heard an unknown voice. I look up to see this. Oh wow, it's a video by Jeep, the Ssaangn dev. Even funnier, my kid searched for Ssaangn on his own, and then kept watching the trailer with its song on repeat. Yeah, it's seeing stories and memes like this that are the most rewarding thing for me as a game dev. This is the lifeblood that keeps me going. Okay, so back to avatars. You can also pick up fruit and vegetables in the crane game and use those to customize your photo. Which brings me to the most recent update that I shipped. There's already a mode from last year that lets players share custom puzzles with each other. So now, when you play a custom puzzle, it shows the avatar of that puzzle's creator. And the creator can also see stats for how many players solved or failed their puzzle. And these provide some fun ways for players to get creative and show off the things that they've collected from the crane game. I shipped Chapter 6 of the story alongside those updates. In the story, the vegetable store owner also sells pickled radish cubes, but one day she drops a durian fruit on her toe and doesn't want to disturb the customers, so she yells into the radish pot and puts the lid on. Well, the next day, swear words start appearing on the radishes, so she apologizes to the pot, and eventually it starts making radishes with lucky words on them. In the last panel, you can see the tiger with its claw, so the idea is that the crane game is the player stealing these magical cubed radishes out of the pot, and those are the text boxes that you're collecting and wearing as badges. On the right is some statistics that I posted leading up to this update. Now that all the persistent data is on my server, I can actually gather some interesting numbers about player progression. The average player has won 33 times, and has a current winning streak of 7 days. 700 players have won at least 1 time in the monthly scavenger hunt racing mode. 400 players have finished reading the entire story. 78 players have a winning streak of over 100 days in a row, and 21 players have a streak of over 200 days. And finally, here's some more AI-generated memes that were made by a fan on Minimap, which is that Korean gaming community that I've mentioned a few times. I'm sure that a bunch more crazy stuff is going to happen because of this game, and that always keeps me excited about the future. Every time something exciting or cool happens, it's been something I never could have guessed, so yeah, I'll just keep developing this. I have quite a few exciting things that I want to add soon, but it's all just work in progress, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was informative. If you have any thoughts about the game, any comments, any ideas, anything you want to share, I always read all the comments and I'll respond to any questions you have. If you want to follow, feel free. I don't do a lot of English videos, but I actually have a playlist, a list of all the English videos, only the English videos. So that's an easy way to see that content. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. That's all I got for now. Bye.
선생님들은 하루 성년입니다.
오늘도 상근이죠.